Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Sophia. I'm joined here today with Caitlin, Amanda, Alyssa, and Maria, and we're going to be talking to you about teamwork. So, teams aren't an unfamiliar concept to anyone, they're not foreign to us, but they're really important to understand because we do use them in so many different ways in our lives. So, a team, by definition, is a group of two or more people who are joined together by a common goal or purpose. And through that purpose, they're able to work together and come up with different goals to achieve that. So we're going to go into three different kinds of teams specifically today with me, and then move forward to um, functional teams first. So with functional teams, we're joined by different groups separately, and then within they each have a specific purpose. So as you can see, differentiated by color, we have system analysts, developers, and testers, and whatever business this is, and they each perform that certain function. And a cross-functional team, if you note the colors again, they've changed. It combines different functions in order to achieve that common purpose. So they use different sets of skills to achieve that goal, and overall they help each other to combine their separate backgrounds to further their goal and common purpose. With self-directed teams, they're a little bit different because they don't have like one central leader for them. It allows for a little bit more autonomy, and it can help teams that aren't quite sure of where they want to go navigate that with each other and come up with what they want to happen with their team. So they use the Tubman model here. We have the 5 steps. We go through forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. We probably have heard of this before, but we're going to go a little bit more in depth with it today. So I'm going to be talking about forming particularly, which is the first stage. It's what teamwork is built upon, and it's most foundational, so it's important to have a strong understanding of that. By definition, forming is when everyone is getting to know each other, and you can almost think of it like an orientation period. So when you first came to Rowan, you were at orientation, everything's really unfamiliar. We're kind of getting to know each other and the university as a whole. So our common purpose is to learn about Rowan and our future classmates. But it's important itself to come up with what the purpose is or what the goal is for that team. If we're a group of people who don't have this common purpose and common goal, we're really just a group. So we don't have anything uniting us, and that's why they're a little bit different. So it's important when you're forming to find out what your goal specifically is. So I played soccer all growing up, probably for about 10 years. I played from when I was 6 to about 16. And in that time, I moved to 4 different teams. So I have a lot of experience, I would say, with forming and getting used to new environments. And from those experiences, I want to tell you a little bit about what I've learned and then some skills we can put forward. So these are some of the qualities you want to keep in mind when we're talking about forming. So some good conduct behavior to keep in mind is that I'm going to go through in the next couple of slides. Again, like forming is really important since everything is built upon that. So we want that to be really strong and foundational for everything else to be built upon. So the first thing that you want to keep in mind is open-mindedness. When we're talking about open-mindedness, it's not necessarily just being open-minded in receiving ideas, but also with yourself to promote creativity and promote sharing of ideas. So when we hear something that someone else says, we don't want to immediately shoot it down because it's not something we thought of. We want to make sure that they're feeling supported and that we're hearing them out. It's also important to set forth some goals and even some guidelines so that everyone's on the same page and can prevent some problems later. If we don't have set guidelines, we won't really know where to go from our starting point. And in forming, we need to establish that. When you form and establish those goals, it can give you more structure later on when you're moving forward. Going along with that, we have communication, as our next point. And that's basically where we're exchanging information so that we can get to know each other a little bit better. When we first formed these teams, I'm sure all of you did the same. We exchanged our emails and phone numbers. That way we were able to unite as a group and then share our ideas a little bit easier. With that, and we talked about setting goals, I want to talk particularly about SMART goals and how we can make our goals even better. So SMART goals are specific, attainable, or specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. And with that, they keep us on track to achieve our goals, and it can prevent any problems later on. I also think it's important to get to know your team outside of the original team setting. So my soccer team, for example, I used to have pasta parties a lot, and that would help us get to know each other off the field and make us play better when we were on the field. Getting to know each other a little bit in your background and how you were, what you do in your free time, different things like that can help the overall process. It's also important to be yourself. So when we talked about open-mindedness earlier, we're not only talking about how we receive other people, but how we want to be received too. So if we be ourselves and we are genuine and authentic, this will respond really well with other people and can in turn promote creativity and really boost our productivity overall. With that being said, we also want to create an environment that promotes new growth. And with that, we need to encourage each other. So when we hear a good idea, we want to tell that person, even give them a high five, let them know that we're responding well to that creativity, and it sets forth the guidelines going forward when you're working on a project in the future. This book talks a little bit about how teamwork is really hard, and forming specifically can be hard. But we want to make sure that we are spending time on this step, and it's really underrated. So we don't want to take it for granted. We really want to make sure that we're forming strong teams from the beginning, and it's a good foundation to build upon. I know myself, I need to remind myself that sometimes in teams, I think that I could just do this on my own or I don't need my teammates. But we really want to keep in mind, too, in the forming stage, that we have a common purpose and we do need each other. Teamwork does make the dream work. We are all going to work together to achieve this common goal. So, with that being said, that is all about the forming stage. So, Caitlin is going to take it away and talk a little bit more about storming.
Hi guys, so like Sophia just said, I'm Caitlin Burns, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about the second stage of the teamwork developing process, which is storming. Storming is the second stage, and it's when you and your team are becoming a little bit more comfortable with one another, and everybody is more open to sharing their own ideas. Storming kind of gets its name from the term brainstorming, which I'm sure you guys are all familiar with. When members of a team all get together and start bouncing their ideas off of one another, trying to figure out what the team's common goal is and how they're going to be able to achieve that goal uh, with the deadlines and different uh, tasks at hand. So, in the beginning of the storming process, a team has to decide how they want to tackle their objectives, whether this is a sports team or like a team just like this one. There's going to be different goals, and they have to figure out how they are going to tackle these goals. A sports team may have to use different tactics for the team they're going to play the next week, and a team like ours is going to have to figure out how we're going to advance throughout the project. Some people might consider the storming stage the most difficult part of the team development process because there are a lot of conflicts that may arise. Because if not everybody agrees with different ideas, uh, conflicts may start and it might be difficult. During this stage, you might notice that your team performance physically may decrease, but mentally as a team, you guys are becoming a lot closer to one another and really figuring out how everybody in your team really does think and ways that you guys can achieve your goal. It's very important during the storming stage to really hear everybody's ideas out because somebody could have a really great idea, and if you just tune them out and completely shoot them down, you could be missing out on a really good idea that can help your team progress in a positive way. And along with these ideas, there are good ideas and bad ideas. But like I just mentioned, if you don't really give people your attention and listen to all their ideas, you could miss out on something great. And even if you hear an idea that does not seem like it's really matching your team's goal, just try to think of ways that you can help enhance that idea and maybe even make it better. Going along with this as well, be confident in your own ideas. You could be holding the key that would help your team have amazing success throughout the project, or a sports team just giving yourself success on the field or on the court. And if you're confident in your own ideas, you'll just embody a better, have a better experience. So also during the storming stage, subgroups may develop, and a subgroup is basically when the whole team may break off into two or three separate little teams, and each of these subgroups could have a different goal, which can ultimately take away from the overall goal of the team. So you should try to stay away from those different obstacles and really try to keep moving forward as one. Other obstacles can be with a sports team, you will have a new obstacle every week because you have a different team to play. And if this team is might be better at defense, you have to really work on your offensive skills or vice versa with offense and defense. And along with different obstacles with a school project or a school team, you're going to be faced with different like, due dates at different parts of the project. So you have to figure out when you and your team should meet and how you're going to be able to move forward in a positive way to really overcome these obstacles. And some people like may find this part of the of the team development process very difficult because of all these conflicts. But that is okay. You're going to have to just move forward from these conflicts and ultimately become stronger and really get to know everybody on your team. And this kind of does, like the conflict part does go into a personal experience of mine. When I was in high school, I was a part of one of the first varsity lacrosse programs at my school. And if you're from Mercer County, you know how bad Nottingham boys and girls lacrosse teams were because we really had not had the experience playing that sport because there really were not many youth leagues around in our area for us to learn the skills as we were younger. So coming into the sport at 14, 15 years old, we were already behind the game because everybody else in other areas have been playing since they were 5 and 6 years old. So as on this team, we ultimately picked these two senior girls who came up through the program when it was a JV program, and we picked the two senior girls to be our captains because we thought that maybe they had more experience and would really help us. But going through the storming stage, we realized these two girls were extremely bossy and really did not know how to play the game. So we really had to join as a team, like along with our coaches, and really decide how we were going to move forward and become more successful as a team. So as we were all sitting down one day after practice, we realized that this one girl who was a sophomore should actually be our captain because she actually moved into our district the year prior and she had more lacrosse experience. So as we were able to go back through the storming stage, we realized that she should be our captain because she was able to teach us other drills and other ways to be successful as a team, like both on and off the field. I'm really glad we did go back and pick a new captain because our other leadership was not a very great one to follow. And although we didn't have the best record throughout the season, we were able to come closer as a team, and we all really did enjoy coming to practice and going to games throughout the season. Some people also consider the storming or teamwork like a relationship. In the beginning of the relationship, much like the forming stage, everybody's all in love and like the honeymoon phase, and there's really no issues. But as you move forward into the storming stage, these issues do become more apparent, and you have to just learn to get over your differences and work through the conflict. And just like I've been saying throughout this whole thing, the conflict and the differences, that's completely normal throughout the storming process. You are going to have to listen to everybody's ideas and really figure out what is going to be the best way for your team to move forward throughout this process. Um, so I'm now going to pass it over to Amanda, who will be talking about the third stage in the team development process, which is movement.
Thank you, Caitlin. My name is Amanda Barrett, and I will be talking about Bruce Tuckerman's team development model of the middle stage, which is norming. And I will be talking about how it applies to the business setting and also how it can apply to real life situations. Norming is a characteristic that everyone comes in contact with constantly in real life. You may think, well, not everything I do is in a team, and you're right about that. But you can still experience each individual stage at different points in your life, whether it's at school or a new job or maybe even a new work environment or a new living environment. But by definition, norming is the bonding and the beginning of the development of a group identity. The members are now sharing a common interest and working together as a team rather than as individuals. During this stage, conflicts and issues from the previous stage, storming, are now getting resolved and are developing a sense of harmony within the group. Team members begin to trust each other and actively seek out for assistance and for input for new ideas in their group project or work environment. Interpersonal differences begin to resolve, and a sense of cohesion and unity emerges. Team performances increase during this stage as members learn to cooperate and begin to focus on the team's goals. However, the harmony is precarious, and disagreements reemerge. The team can slide back into the stormy stage, as was previously explained. Some reasons that can cause the danger here is that members may be focused on preventing conflict and are reluctant to share new ideas that can help the team move forward together. In every team, there's usually someone who takes charge as the team leader, but may not be as involved in decision making and problem solving, since the team members are working better together and can take on more responsibility in their area. The team has a greater self-direction and is able to resolve issues and conflict as a group. However, on occasion, the team leader may step in to move things along if the team gets stuck. The team should always ensure that the team members are working collaboratively and may begin to function as a coach to the team members. The team leader usually is the one who will step up when controversy starts to begin and helps team members take responsibility for progress towards the goal. In the workplace, we will all have the same goal, and that's to be successful. So the leader will probably have a work meeting to try to resolve the issue. Now that the team members worked out all the kinks, they can move forward into the rest of the norming stage together. The group may even develop a sense of synergy, which means that the members feel like they can accomplish more together rather than on their own. Now that we got a little background and information on norming in the workplace, I would like to tell you about my personal experience that I went through when I was just a young kid who didn't even know about the team development model. Got my first job ever when I was 16 at Rita's Italian Ice. I had gotten the job because of my best friend who had previously worked there, but when I first started, she quit, so I was going into this new job all alone, which seems a lot more scarier when you're a 16-year-old girl. At my location, Rita's only hired female employees. Now that I mention that, it's kind of a huge HR red flag, but but it left me with a bunch of girls that I never met, and I'm a very introverted person at first, so shifts were usually very silent and awkward. As the weeks went by, I would always work with the same four girls. All we would say to each other when we worked together is just questions about work that day, or if anything maybe eventful happened. But I remember when any of us worked together, it would never be as productive because one was always afraid to ask someone to do something because they know each other. A little backstory with this: our boss wasn't the nicest lady, and so when things weren't done correctly or could have been done better, she would either write us up or yell at us. And the communication was a huge problem. So she told us basically to figure it out, or we would probably get fired. So our next shift together, we tried to make conversation. As we were trying at first, it just was getting a little weird, and our location wasn't in the best area, so a homeless man, as per usual, came in, asked for a sample, and when I gave him his sample, a girl looked at me and she said, "Amanda, he's peeing on the floor." I nearly died.
How old were you?
16. I nearly died in that moment, but long story short, he got arrested, and somehow things kind of went back to normal. But we all just started to laugh about it, and then we all realized how many horrible stories each and every one of us had, and we never knew because the communication just wasn't there before. It's probably the worst job of my life, but still to this day, they are all my best friends, and we talk every single day. I always be grateful for that job, even though it was really awkward and disgusting. But we managed to find common ground and build up to what we have today. The Norman stage has been a part of my real life before, and I never even knew it until I did this project. We've all been through the model, I'm sure, and I'm sure I'll run into it again in the near future. Even today, doing this project, we all had to go through the team development model, and we probably never noticed until we all came together. So just to reiterate today about the norming stage, we talked about what norming is, how it's implemented into everyday life, team leader roles, and to never go to Rita's in Eatontown. Don't know. I hope you all enjoyed learning about this norming stage, and I'm going to hand it off to Alyssa.
Thank you, Amanda. As she said, my name is Alyssa, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the fourth stage in our model, performing. At this point, the group is not concerned about arguments or preparation. They have moved past all of this, and they're ready to actually present what they've been working on. To start off, I'm going to go over some group trends. First trend I'm going to talk about is trust. Trust is formed not only between individual members, but by the group as a whole. The groups have been able to form this trust because they've been working together over the course of the project. Overall, the group has a level of competence when working, discussing, and interacting with each other in general. Because of this trust, team members are able to form and maintain strong relationships. Thanks to the norming and forming stages mentioned previously, members have gotten over initial problems and biases. They are now ready to support each other during this stage, and they are less likely to criticize one another. Going along with this same idea, the groups are more willing to help one another. Because of the trust and relationships, they are more patient and understanding of their group members. If something should go wrong or unexpected during the project, your group should be able to support you and back you up. At this point, it's also important that the groups have a shared vision. A shared vision is especially important at this point because if the groups do not have this cohesion, the project will probably not be successful, won't be the true work of the group, and it probably won't get the point across to the audience. If your groups do have a vision, then each member is motivated to do a good job, not only for themselves, but for the group as a whole. Motivation is high because members have been working and dedicating a lot of time to completing this project. They also might feel an urge not to let their other team members down because of the trust and relationships formed. One of the major qualities seen during this stage is confidence. Confidence can start to show up in the earlier stages when the groups get to know each other, but it's strongest during the performing stage. The confidence that I'm talking about is mainly confidence in the work being done and not confidence like I have speaking to you right now, because we all know that's something that varies. In this model, there is no one leader. Leadership is flexible and can shift between members. For example, with this class, after we set up our group project goals, each member took responsibility for a different part of the presentation, creating the slides and presenting to the class and of course the professor. Even though leadership can shift, it's important that the group maintain a unity. Again, an example in this class, even though each member is responsible for his or her own grade, each person's part is only a snapshot. To get the full picture or all of the information, you need the work of the group as a whole. Disagreements will still come up, no matter how good a group is. This is not a bad thing, and it's actually quite normal, because this can help us to learn and grow from our mistakes. If they do come up at this point, they are resolved easily due to members' maintained relationships. Anything that needs to be changed is done quickly and without excessive argument. It's also important to learn from these arguments because it's a skill that's going to be useful in your future career and everyday life. It can allow you to see a side in which you might have never thought about before, and that in turn can lead you to learn something new about a person or a situation. Now, next I'm going to talk about and compare this to an example in my life. A fitting example that I can think about is my experience with the performing arts in high school. Not only was I literally performing it in front of people, but each stage in the model can easily be identified. I'm going to focus on the fourth stage, but I'll run through the others briefly for you. So I've had the pleasure of being in over 10 large productions. And when I say large, I mean of groups over 1,000 people, and then 20 smaller concerts, shows, and recitals. Some of them are big and popular that you might know, like Les Mis and Hairspray. Others which you might have never heard about, like Once on This Island. In the beginning, a cast is chosen. And this is the forming stage. And then there's always people that you don't know, so you have to storm and learn their strengths and weaknesses. And then when you get to the norming stage, this is very important to get to know each cast member, just in case something should go wrong or they forget a line or miss a cue. The performing stage actually starts during Tech Week, when the cast is in full costume and makeup and has to perform the show as if there was an actual audience. At this point, the cast knows each other very well, so much so that we have each other's lines and scenes memorized just in case something should go wrong. Unity and trust are very important when putting on a show. My junior year of Les Mis, I had a full costume change: shirt, shoes, pants, hat, and even a new prop that all had to be done in under 15 seconds. Because my team had a good unity and I trusted them, each one of my cast members took responsibility for a different piece of clothing, and I was never late for a scene change. It's also important to be motivated in an area which might not be your specialty. If you were a dancer, you were still expected to sing or lip sync. If you were a singer, you were still expected to dance or do simple moves. This is a good example of flexibility and how leadership can shift depending on whether you're in the spotlight or in the background. You also have to remember that people are paying to see you perform. Not only are you motivated by money, but you have no control to stop the show or the performance. So you have no time for long or short arguments. If somebody kicks you in the shin during the big dance number, chances are you probably won't figure out who it was. At the end of the show, when the curtain closes, or that last document is submitted onto Blackboard, there's a sense of peace. There's also a sense of freedom that comes over the group because the pressure of the project has gone away. Unfortunately, this feeling might not last as long as you want it to, because the groups must then review their work after it's been graded and returned. And that brings us to our fifth and final stage, in which Maria is now going to talk to you about.
Thank you, Alyssa. Again, my name is Maria Stazenko, and I'm going to be talking to you guys about the adjoining stage, which is the fifth and final stage of group development. Sometimes also known as the morning stage, because this would be the time when team members break apart and say their goodbyes. So, how else do we define the adjoining stage? As I mentioned before, this is the final stage of the group development project. So, teams should have reached their goals at this point. This stage consists of reviewing team accomplishments, reflecting on the lessons learned, creating takeaway resources, celebrating the success of the project, as well as allowing team members to acknowledge the support that they receive from one another. Different types of teams will reach the stage at different times. For example, a project related team like this will reach the stage much quicker than a permanent team because they're only assigned to one task. Today, once we're finished with this presentation, we'll be moved on to the adjoining stage. Project-related teams can be found in the workplace or the classroom. For example, an advertising agency can put together a group of people to work on an ad campaign for a product that a company is launching. Because their only task is to create that one campaign, they're going to be together for a short period of time, reaching the stage much quicker. Permanent teams, on the other hand, will be together for a longer period of time before reaching the adjoining stage. An example of a permanent team would be a sports team. I played soccer for 3 years in high school, but due to personal reasons, I had to stop playing my junior year. This is when I would start the adjourning stage. As I previously stated, one of the things that the adjourning stage consists of is going over improvements. This is especially important for permanent teams because we'll be together longer. Instead of having one goal to meet, we'll probably have multiple goals, and it'll take multiple attempts to reach those goals. Most of you who played sports are familiar with standing around your coach after every game and going over what you could do, what you could improve on, as well as what you did good. The more we went over the little improvements, the more that we improved throughout every season. An important factor in this would not only be listening to the feedback as well, but also incorporating that into how you work. My sophomore year, we actually won the Blue Division. It wasn't just one person that got us there, and it didn't happen overnight. We played as a team. We spent countless hours together, practicing and going over improvements, listening to the feedback, and incorporating that into how we played. The same goes with teams in the workplace. It's really important to go over your presentation once you're finished, so you can go over what you did well, as well as what you can improve on. This gives team members a chance to help each other become successful, as well as building trust and confidence between one another. When you put people together in a group, ideas may clash and everyone might not get along. There may be some members doing more work than others, and so it's important to identify a leader that can monitor the group's progress and push them in the right direction, especially if they start to notice that a team member is starting to slack off. A leader's responsibility is to ensure that the work is spread out evenly, as well as to make sure that they give clear instructions so no one is confused. It's important that the leader plans the adjourning stage early enough to encourage strong communication and ends in a healthy way. Leaders should plan out times for the team to meet and talk about their feelings, concerns, and ideas. Each member has a role in the group as well. It's important to discuss and address any opinions or problems one might have to avoid any complications later down the road. Communication is extremely important in teamwork, and by having strong communication, the team will build strong, trust and strong relationships. It's also the leader's job to plan a celebration. This would typically involve dinner or drinks. This would encourage the team to network after they break apart, which will build strong relationships that can be successful in the future. Leaving the team on a positive note can help, especially when members take the time to talk to each other about past experiences and share valuable lessons. Celebrating is important in their journey stage because it establishes positive relations and lets you off on a positive note. After every soccer season, we had a sports banquet, and this was the time for us to look back on the season as well as say goodbye to all the graduating seniors. When team members are able to discuss and resolve problems instead of keeping quiet, they become stronger and grow. Creating positive relationships between members will create a sense of comfort, causing the team to operate better together. A leader's job is to encourage this. That's why it's important to choose someone who will take charge. It doesn't matter what team it is or how long you guys work together for. This stage is relevant because it determines how successful the team was. Was there clear communication and strong relationships between the team members? Or was there a lack of communication and no clear goals? This is the leader's job to figure it out. Teamwork is important in the workplace. When you put together more than one person to brainstorm a project, there's going to be an increase in the number of ideas. Teams can also work together on a harder project, eliminating the time they would spend a single person, in the end, accomplishing more. Practicing team development will increase success in teams. Eventually, with the addition of the adjourning stage, members will learn to work well together. When teams work well together, they will be successful, and when they're successful, so is the company. For teams that are successful, the stage is helpful for closure because they may have grown close. Thank you for listening to our presentation on team development. Again, the 5 stages of group development are forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. Hopefully you all can take away something from this presentation that can help you excel in the future.
I'm sorry. No, this wasn't normal.
Can we take these notes?